think the secret to everything is to continue to do things that are something that make you happy.
Welcome back to the Wild Business Growth Podcast, presented by Hippo Direct. This is your destination to hear from a new entrepreneur or creative innovator every single week who's unleashing creativity to grow bigger and better businesses. I'm your host, Max Brandstetter, digital marketing dude here at Hippo Direct. You can yell at me on social media at Max Brandstetter. Good luck spelling Brandstetter. And you can yell at all of us on social media at Hippo Direct. That's hippo like the animal, direct like the word direct. This is episode number 13, and boy, do we have a special guest for you. Our guest this week is Dr. Chithra Durgam. You may recognize her from Gary Vee's hit #1 New York Times bestselling book, Crushing It, or you may just recognize her from being the world's coolest dentist. She's absolutely amazing. She grew her business through social media such as Musical.ly and Instagram. In addition to Gary Vee, her entourage also includes Snoop Dogg and members of the Denver Broncos. Even if you're not a dentist or a patient at the moment yourself, this episode includes some really cool crossovers between the business world, the entrepreneurship world, and the dentistry world, and also talks a lot about creativity and inspiration. I think we were inspired by Snoop Dogg to the point that we mentioned several rappers throughout the episode, so make sure to tune in and see if you can count them all. Without further ado, let's head to the interview. Enjoy the show. Alrighty, I am here with Dr. Chithra Durgam. She is kind enough to host us from her dental practice, Aesthetic Dental, in North Bergen, New Jersey. So I just had a fabulous bus ride along the Hudson on this beautiful day in New York, as always. Dr. Durgam, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on your podcast.
Of course. Thanks again for hosting. To set the scene a little bit, we are here in Dr. Durgam's office, and to my left is a couple copies of Gary Vee's #1 best-selling book, Crushing It, which Dr. Durgam was featured in, of course. I'm sure you hear that every single second of the day now. And behind Dr. Durgam here is a picture of her alongside Snoop Dogg. So anyway, I'll do a little bit about you, and then we'll hand it over to you to sort of go more into your journey up to this point. So we're here at Aesthetic Dental. You also started Roar Mouth Guards, yes, which is doing fantastically well. And you got highlighted in Gary Vee's book because you've really grown your business through these modern tools of social media, including Musical.ly, which is now TikTok. And I know you're big on Instagram as well, which is where we connected in the first place. So you're just absolutely dominating the modern marketing landscape. And you did something really amazing, which was you made going to the dentist fun for kids. So I think that's the crowning achievement right there. You mind going a little bit into your background and sort of how you got your start and what led you up to this point that you're at today?
Of course. I actually haven't really told this story to many people. I actually got interested in dentistry after I followed one of my mentors in high school who was a dentist. For a few months, we were following him. I was learning more about what he did. Summers prior to that, I also was working in different odd jobs like Ivar's Seafood Bar and a temp agency called Manpower. So I had a lot of experience in working in different positions. And so by that point, I really knew I wanted to be a dentist. So I ended up going to Washington University in St. Louis for undergraduate. I went to Northwestern for dental school. And from there, I moved to New York to do a residency, and I fell in love with the East Coast. It was amazing. What I saw in front of me was the opportunity to not only serve patients, but also do other things that are within my interest as well, like including sports and doing public speaking. So it became a great journey coming over here. And then from there, I started my own business more than 15 years ago in terms of having a dental office. And so now we're in our second location, and we've been doing really well ever since.
Wow, that's amazing. And I guess I'm somewhat newer to the East Coast, so I've come to love it as well. It's a fun area to be in. Let's go into your journey of using social media to grow your business.
Sure.
Because I know that's a huge part of your brand and your personal brand and the brand of your practice.
As you mentioned, you made going to the dentist fun, and you've heard from parents that their kids have told them, oh, I want to go to that dentist. I want to go to that dentist.
Right.
How'd you first get started with Musical.ly and in the social media space in the first place? What was it that made you get the ball rolling and start putting yourself out there like that?
Basically, I was really looking at all the different social media platforms and trying to figure out what would be good for me based on my interest. And I'll be honest, when I first kind of approached Musical.ly and then now called TikTok, I was a little bit concerned that how I was going to use the platform, whether it would work for me and what I was going to do, or was it just going to be for fun? And so I was concerned because I know that it's going to change the way people look at me if it ended up doing what I wanted it to do. And I didn't know if that's something I was willing to risk based on the fact that, this is what I do for a living, being a dentist. And so I decided basically on a whim after watching one of Gary Vaynerchuk's videos that he was telling and advising someone else to do 3 Musical.ly videos a day for 3 months and see what happened. I basically took the challenge myself and did the same thing during a summer and basically made all these different videos, some of them including my dental office, some of them not, and just learning the platform. And I basically kept it private all that time. So that's pretty much how I started off with Musical.ly. And only after a while, once I felt I knew the platform pretty well, I then pushed it to Instagram. But my interest in social media basically started because I knew that a lot of the other old ways of advertising were going to be waning and that it was time to make a change and not just be someone who follows everybody else, but to be one of the trendsetters, one of the first people. And so that's the reason why I decided to take the plunge.
Awesome. And what were people's reactions when you first started doing that? So obviously, as you mentioned, you started with the challenge. At some point along the way, I'm sure your family, your kids, and other people started taking notice. Like, wow, look at Dr. Durgam. Look what's going on there with Musical.ly and all that. What was people's reaction to that in the first place? What sort of feedback were you getting?
That's a great question, actually, because the only people that actually seemed to like what I was doing were my kids. Because at school now...
That's great. It's good to have your kids as fans.
Because at school now, their friends thought their mom was a rock star for some reason. And so they were like asking me to follow them on Musical.ly. So it was really great at the time. I would say, though, everyone else was not so amused. I think I had some people say that I was going through a midlife crisis, that I had to rethink some of the things that I was doing, that I was always on social media. If I ever was in a social situation and I was trying to capture different things that were happening, I kind of got a lot of pushback. And at that moment, those are the moments that really teach you what you're made of. Are you going to keep, continuing on your path that you've already decided is the right path for you, or are you going to kind of succumb to the pressures of everyone else? So it was an interesting moment. It's like that time where you get tested. And I basically think I chose the right way because I was true to myself at the end.
Right. Oh, totally. Were there any points along the way that you had a lot of doubt and you were thinking, you know what, the social media is taking up a lot of time. I'm not seeing results yet.
Right. So I thought that if I did the social media, it would actually help in team morale because I was also including my team members. So it would help us to be able to get along well and have something fun to do. And I also thought that if nothing else, it would also give us an opportunity to see in terms of marketing what's working and what's not. Even if it was a complete failure, it never would have been a loss because there were other things to be gained from it. And so that's kind of how I look at most things. If nothing else, you actually learn from it and you can do a lot of things with that learning experience to do something else possibly later on.
Totally. Yeah. And there's so many great resources to learn from these days. And with social, even you get those real-time analytics so you can literally see how stuff is doing.
Right.
You can notice when your traffic is picking up and everything. At what point along the way did you realize that your videos and your brand was picking up and starting to make a difference in your business?
What I was looking for really was progress along the way. If I felt like, I was staying with the same, interest, nobody was really doing anything with my videos or commenting or engaging, I would probably have taken a lesser role with what I was doing. But I did see that everyone was interested. And so I would say right after I was posting, I would say probably 6 months prior to crushing it is when I saw more of the interest, and I saw more engagement. And I also at that point was also using some of the content that I was making and marketing it. So using it on Facebook, using it on Instagram actually really made a difference as well.
Wow. Yeah. And as Gary Vee mentions, there's so many different platforms that you can distribute things. So I'm sure you've sort of seen kind of the pros and cons of each of those. But you did mention crushing it, and obviously it's the elephant in the room. It's, I'm a huge Gary Vee fan. Read Crushing It earlier this year, and I, like so many others, discovered you through Crushing It. I want to get some details into sort of behind the scenes of how that went. From the start, how did you get connected with Gary Vee in the first place? Was there a time that you met him, or was this all through social media? And how did you get the ball rolling to the point that, wow, hey, I could actually be featured in this book that's going to be huge, as all of his releases are?
Right. I mean, Gary Vaynerchuk is, he's successful, and he's doing everything that people are, interested in these days, which is understanding how to leverage social media and personal brand for their own benefit. And I think for him, whatever he actually says in terms of giving advice, asking people to give value to others first, all those things he actually does himself, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're someone who brings value to him, if you're someone who, is a kind person, if you're someone who tries to help other people, you're going to see the benefits no matter what. And I think the fact that he lives the way he preaches is probably one of the reasons why I ended up in the book. I can't speak for him, but I can say that, there was a point when he was asking for submissions for the book on his podcast solely on his podcast. Yeah. And that was the point that I ended up submitting an entry to him for that. And prior to that, I was trying to offer a lot of value. Whether that was the reason, I can't say for sure, but I lived by the principles that he basically lives on himself. And I think that's the way of doing pretty much anything. If you want to get closer to someone, if you want to learn more about how another person does things and you want to be their right-hand man, figure out what it is that they do in their daily life and what's important to them. And then do basically what you can to deliver on that. They'll know that you did your homework. They know that you're not in it just for yourself, but you're trying to help them. And if you're actually able to get things done for them, it pays at some point. Maybe not right away, but at some point it will pay.
Words to live by right there. And now both Gary Vee and you are crushing it. When you say giving value,
right?
Can you give some examples of that, specifically with your interactions with Gary?
I don't know if it did give value to him, but I'm thinking from my perspective.
We'll say it did. Yeah, okay. We'll say
it. So if I know somebody who is famous, and if he puts something out there that he needs, let's say he wants to do a Musical.ly with someone, or he wants to have some recording artist come into his studio. Mm-hmm. If he puts that out there on, let's say on a tweet, and I know of somebody that may meet that standard, I'll try to see if I connect them.
Awesome,
if he's doing something and he has an event and he's trying to get people to come, if he's trying to sell shoes, if he's trying to sell books, he doesn't do many asks. So the very few times that he does and he's looking for help, that if you can try to bring a few people together to actually fulfill what he's looking for, you're bringing value.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much where it is. And you're giving value and not looking for recognition in return.
Right.
So you're doing things for others that they want, and not necessarily, letting them know that you were the one behind it. Mm-hmm. And, also for Wine Library, they were looking for speakers at one point. I knew some people who might be interested in speaking, and I tried to arrange for them to connect with his team. So whether things work out or not, if you can try to bring people together who you think can both benefit through the relationship, that's always going to be value added. And you may not necessarily get anything out of it, but you know that you've benefited those people.
Mm-hmm. Right. Give. That's
right.
That's the mantra there.
Yes, and that's what I live by.
Awesome. Mic drop. So how about speaking? You mentioned speaking. How often do you do speaking gigs? It would be the first question. And then the second part of that is, have you seen an impact to your business from that since you started getting more exposure that way?
So that's a great question for me because I love talking about it. I've done speaking right now. I've done quite a bit of speaking throughout my life. So I started as a public speaker and a debater in high school. And then throughout the years, I've done like commencement speeches in school. And I've done public speaking on women's issues as well as issues regarding race. But I think only recently have I been doing more speaking on business, being a woman in business, and also being a woman trying to juggle various things in her life, as well as to dental organizations interested in learning about dental products as well as marketing and business for their organizations. So I've done a few this year, and looking to continue to do that because it's a passion of mine. I feel like I have a lot to offer in terms of information and my experience, and I want other people to succeed. I kind of want to bring everybody with me on this journey to be successful like me, because I don't want to kind of just do my own thing and do it by myself. I want to be able to help people along the way, and I think that's my best way of doing it. And so that's, pretty much where I am now. And I have somebody that's helping me to identify, good partners to be able to work with going forward, because we want to be able to spread the message further.
Awesome. Well, thank you for bringing me with you into your office today so we could record this.
This is the beginning of a long relationship, right?
Exactly.
Friendship.
Yes, exactly. In terms of time management, I kind of want to transition to, from in your shoes, managing your business, managing this practice as a business, because there's a natural crossover there between dentistry and business and entrepreneurship there. First thing, how do you manage your time? How do you focus? How do you decide where to focus on with so many things going on? Because, obviously you've got the social media side of things, you've got the speaking side of things. You're a parent, you have kids, member of the community, and you have this practice. How do you get all that done without just going weeks without sleep?
Right. That's a great question. It's not really I've never really talked about this, so you're like bringing all the good stuff out of me.
Awesome. Well, that's what I'm here for. I don't know if you would have signed up for this if you knew that beforehand.
But I think for me, I think it's about priorities. I mean, obviously, like we talked about before, I have this dental office, which is aesthetic dental. We do all different types of procedures. We actually have, I have a staff. I have also other dentists that are working with us. But my mantra with that is to hire people who are smarter and better than you. You have to have people on your team who know a lot and can work autonomously and can do their work and not necessarily need your direction. And then you have to also make sure you're rewarding them. And so in doing that, I want to make sure I'm better so I can give back to them. If I'm doing better, then they do better. And so, developing my businesses that way has been key, I think, in trying to become more successful. We also started Roar Mouth Guards, which is a custom mouth guard company. And we've also gotten a lot of clients who are, in the PFL, who are NFL athletes. And we want to make sure that we're able to expand that. And unless the few things that I'm doing already are taken care of, I can't expand to the next project. So I think, going back to what I said originally, making sure that your foundation is secure first before you jump to the next thing is important and key. Mm-hmm. And that helps with time management. You don't have to worry all the time when you know that somebody else is thinking about everything. Mm-hmm. And I think it's about priorities. I don't think you're ever going to be great at everything all at once, right?
It's impossible. Yeah.
It's impossible, but you have to know what are priorities. Like for me, I don't do a lot of extracurricular activities. I don't necessarily go and hang out. I don't go out to meet and socialize with my friends. If I ever do meet up with people, it's usually they're coming with me to maybe a business event or to support one of our fellow colleagues. That's usually how it plays out. So for me, trying to manage the time has more to do with how much can I get done and then how much can I start delegating to other people. So right now, I don't spend any time on things that I don't want to do. So I'm not working on, a lot of domestic things at home. I've delegated that out. I no longer this year am picking up my kids from school. And so there's things that I've delegated out, but now that enables me to spend more time with my kids because everything else is completed by the time I get home. I focus on them. When they go to sleep, I basically start working on my business ideas and address any dental concerns that I need to take care of for that night. If there's emergencies, if there's notes that need to be done. So basically, I just kind of section off my time. So from, I would say, 5 to about 8 is basically time with my kids. And aside from that, it's all work. Right. So as long as, I'm able to continue to work at that pace, and then as I continue to grow, delegate more and more, I think that I've been able to be successful in that kind of balance of things.
And I love how important your kids and your family and people are to you. I mean, in that answer, people kept coming up again and again. And shout out Emily real quick.
Yeah,
awesome.
Right. Emily's the best.
Emily's the best. Shout out Emily.
Everybody that's ever met Emily will say that too.
Yeah, even Emily. How'd you start the Roar mouthpieces? How'd you come up with the idea? And when did you decide that you're going to go all in on that?
You know what's really cool is when I was growing up, I was like obsessed with all those shows that were like about customization of cars and just customization in general.
Like Pimp My Ride?
Yeah, exactly. But
my favorite. Right. Shout out Exhibit. X to the Z.
That stuff better be still available because people should see that.
I know. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. Yeah.
But, I think that, when you see people that have custom exclusive items, like even Louis Vuitton handbags that are like exclusive, like they're coveted. And I think people like it because there's a sense of status with it. Not only the fact that are they comfortable and they actually help a person to protect their teeth, but they're just cool looking. And I just enjoy sports so much. And the fact that I could actually take that and put it with something that I love as much as sports and then customize it. Like those are 3 things that I'm just passionate about. And so just the feedback I've been getting from people who've received our mouth guards, that they love them, that they actually can't imagine ever going back to like a boil and bite mouth guard, just not only makes me happy, but makes us realize that we're onto the right thing here. And there's only so many people that can do custom mouth guards. You have to actually be a dentist that can, use the molds and actually make the custom guard. And so, there's such a big difference between a custom mouth guard and one that you buy in the store for $10. We can have one that's going to stay with that person for a long time. It's going to protect their teeth. Their teeth are not going to get as damaged. It can withstand so much more pressure. The mouth guards that we make are using 100 PSI of pressure. So usually, any other mouth guard is going to be 5 PSI. So you can see it's like 20 times the difference. So being able to design and to make it higher quality and to be able to sleep at night knowing that you're able to really make a product that's going to protect someone's teeth is not only, humbling to me, but it's also making me realize like how many amazing people are going to benefit from this going forward because they're not going to have to constantly replace the mouth guards that they have playing sports.
Right. Yeah. I wish I was back as a kid still playing football when Roar was around, but I remember I had some sort of custom mouth guard and I can attest to how impactful it was. And as you can see in, on video here, I still have some teeth left, which is great. But but they are fantastic, and I'm sure it's been awesome for you. I mean, I'm looking at this picture of Snoop Dogg right now. How in the world did you get connected with Snoop as we get to our second rapper name drop of the episode?
How am I going to get the third one in? That's what I'm thinking about.
All right. Well, I got some. The wheels are turning.
So this is a good segue from Roar because we actually did custom mouth guards for their whole team.
Wow.
The Snoop Special Stars in California.
Huh.
So when we went over there, we were able to have some dental professionals take impressions, and then we were able to make the guards here. My team did a fantastic job in helping me to orchestrate that because we had very little time to do it. But just like everybody else that's on social media today, the way that we were able to connect with them was through Instagram. So basically DMing people that you're interested in, like we were talking about earlier, adding value, trying to show them how you can add value to their program and not expecting anything in return. Like I said, those are the words that I live by. And we were able to add quite a bit of value to not only those athletes, but we were able to give them something that, it was exciting for them because it's custom. They've never seen anything like that before. And, wow. Adidas also was, nice enough to give them also things, the athletes that were participants. So we're going to be working with them again every year, hopefully to be able to provide those guards. And we're looking forward to next June to be able to do it again. And we were able to meet with Snoop Dogg that day, realizing he's a fantastic person, not just, this amazing music artist, but he's also really cares about the kids. And that was really an interesting thing to see that other side of him. So it was a great day.
Huh. And you saw the other side of him, but I have to ask, did you guys have a rap battle? Because I'd be pulling for you. I got you in that one.
I gotta work on my rap battles on TikTok.
Okay. All right. Well, that's podcast part 2.
Yeah, right.
Hi, this is Greg Brandstetter, founder of Hippo Direct. Has all this wild growth talk made you hungry for some new customers? Well, here's your recipe for success. Hippo Direct can help you acquire new clients using proven methods such as postal mailings, email marketing, and targeted ads on Google, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We can even create a customized leads and prospecting database for you. So check out hippodirect.com and contact us today.
I have some more dental questions because we love dentists here at Hippo Direct. We're an official ADA list licensee, and for anybody that's not familiar, that's the American Dental Association. So we're always working with dentists and dental manufacturers and that sort of thing. I know you've had an awesome career in the dental industry already, in dentistry. Do you have any advice for young dental students and people that are just deciding whether to kind of get into start their own practice or join a DSO? Sort of, what would you say from someone that's in med school and debating what to do to start off their dental career?
So I think going back to dental school, my advice is, make sure that you're really interested in dentistry and try to limit your debt. Because I think right now,
both important.
The biggest problem, and I've seen it time and time again with people who are talking to me about dental school, is that the price of dental school has increased dramatically to the point where it's almost impossible for someone to get out and, be able to pay their loans off in a timely manner. So if you're going to do it because you love it, and don't think that you're doing it for money or for any other reason, because it's not necessarily the best way. I mean, when I was going to school, it was much less expensive, but nowadays you have to think about it. But aside from that, I think if you've decided that it's something that you want to do, I would be really quick to learn about how dental offices are run and find a mentor. Find somebody who's really smart on the academic side, has had to work really hard to become a dentist. Not someone who's naturally smart, but honestly, somebody who's worked really hard to learn the ins and outs of all different facets of dentistry. Because I think when you meet a mentor, you don't want somebody who's an academic, who doesn't know how to explain things, who doesn't know how to communicate and give you information that you want. You want someone who's going to be a partner with you and show you the ropes, show you how things are done, talk to you about the trials that they've had to go through. So you want a mentor who can really be there for you and is going to give you the time. It's almost like when you pick a school, everyone wants to get into Harvard or one of these top schools, but a lot of them are, a lot of the professors are more into the research and the academic side, and you barely get to engage with them. Some of these smaller schools, no-name schools, actually will take the time to spend with you to learn the ins and outs. And I apply that also with mentorship. Find somebody who's going to give you the time of day and give you kind of the skills when you first start out. Don't go into a position when you first start off as an associate just for the money. It's really not the way to go. I know you have probably things that you need to pay, but find a place that is, in my opinion, a private office that has all the, materials, the latest equipment, digital x-rays, everything that you eventually want to be a part of, and learn it from the ground up. Trying to work in a clinic, trying to work in a hospital is great for residency, but if you want to learn the real world items, you need to be in a private office. And then from there, decide what you want to do. I mean, don't be in a rush take your time to learn. And once you learn everything and you have that foundation, then you can make, a decision what you want to do. And there's so many things available. But I think mentorship is key.
Wow. Yeah, totally agree. You can ask my mentor. And it's kind of an awkward thing though, right? Like how you don't just go up to someone and like, hey, how'd you like to be my mentor? Do you have any advice for how to start that process without being weird about it?
That's an excellent question. I didn't have Instagram when I was growing up. If I was in dental school and was on Instagram, I would be friending every dentist who is clinically adept and seems to be really good at communication. You can tell if someone's good at communication by looking at their social media and how active they are, and see if they're really the one that's behind it, and start complimenting them. If you like their work, great. Tell them how great they are, engage with them, because you have to think, what is it that someone on Instagram is looking for? They're looking for credibility. They're looking for people to tell them and give them a cosign. They're looking for people to really endorse what they're doing. And if you're there as a student, but is really endorsing somebody else and you're doing it day in and day out, you put them on notifications and you're supporting them, you're going to find that eventually they're going to want to return the favor and support you. And maybe it's just a conversation. Maybe you don't necessarily get a position at their office, or maybe they know somebody that can give you a position. Like, all these things are serendipitous because you don't know until you keep trying and trying to talk to a lot of people. You don't know what's available. So I think start with Instagram. That's something you can do while, you're not, on a Tuesday night at 11 o'clock. The other thing is go to dental conventions. Go and meet with people who are into the industry. Go to lectures of people that you have a lot of respect for, and then go to them afterwards and ask for their card and ask them if you can keep in touch. Develop the relationship before you need the relationship. Okay, so if you want to get a job 4 years after school, you should be talking to people when you're in college. And talking to people that are in the industry, and this applies to any industry. You have to talk to people early and get their information about what it is that they're doing and find out how you can offer value, because that relationship building doesn't happen right away. It takes several years, months to be able to get a relationship with someone. And once you've kind of defined that, you're golden at that point because you've already had that relationship. I see so many people who are now trying to look for a job and never made the time to develop relationships. And that's just not the way that, the world really works. You want to get a really good job, you have to make those relationships early. And then the only other thing I would suggest is for people who are, if you're looking for a mentor, you have to also think about in dental societies and other places where a lot of older dentists congregate. A lot of times the older dentists have more time. They're working part-time. They really want to talk to people. They want to give their knowledge. And, sometimes, unfortunately, young people kind of dismiss older people. They think that they do things the old way, that they don't know what digital dentistry is. Right. They don't understand lasers. But they understand a lot more than you think. And they have a lot of connections. And knowing people who've been in the industry a long time, those connections are extremely important.
That's amazing. You have me wanting to be a dentist. You have me wanting to...
Oh my gosh, that was my whole goal.
You have me wanting... Yes, exactly. That's what we're here for. You have me wanting to go into a dentist for a cleaning.
Great.
But I'll stick around
after.
Okay,
my job is done.
I'll stick around after, yeah. Also, you have the first mention of serendipitous in Wild Business Growth Podcast history. So, Serendipitous Award of the Week.
Yes, I like it.
New segment idea.
Yeah,
so
cool.
Besides Instagram and the changes in, debt and obviously the cost of dental school that you've seen over the years, what's the biggest thing that you've noticed changing from, when you started your career in dentistry to now?
So I would say nowadays things have changed dramatically in terms of treatment planning. We're using much more digital workflows to basically mock up patients. I think implants have become more of a standard than they were when I first started. So basically placing in places where there's missing teeth, placing an implant has become, a big part of a lot of dental offices, and having somebody who can offer that is important. The major change that I'm seeing, and that's kind of trumps everything, is how we're kind of moving more to DSOs, and we're having less private practices in in less dense areas, I would say that's more prevalent. I think in more bigger cities, it's not so much. But I would say the DSOs are kind of taking over, and we can keep going back and forth whether that's a good thing for the industry or not. I think at the end of the day, you have to just be the best at what you do if you want to be better than everybody else and not have to succumb to that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I know that a lot of people in my profession are having an issue with the DSOs, thinking that they're buying out a lot of the private practices. And my theory is, I think you need to figure out what your lane is and try to be the very best at it. If you're going to be in private practice, you can't just open up an office and hope like everything is going to be good. You have to really put in the effort. And it's not like the old times when you could just put a shingle up and everyone would show up at your door. You have to be really good at what you do. You have to be able to market what you do. And you also have to be charismatic, and you have to volunteer in the community. And so you pretty much have to be a triple threat. And there's some people that don't want to do that. And if you don't want to do that, you should really think about, whether having your own office is for you. But the industry has changed dramatically, and it continues to do so. And being able to stay on top of that is critical to be able to do well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And another thing that I know is changing, and you're kind of at the forefront of this, that I know as far as the demographics of dentists over the years, especially the past couple of decades, women and minority dentists have totally, skyrocketed. The numbers are increasing every year. Is that a passion area for you? Is that anything you thought of kind of when you were building out your practice and when you're speaking in the dentist world?
Yeah. Wow. You know more about dentistry than any other non-dentist. This is excellent.
Thank you. It's a lot of what we do. Yeah.
I mean, if your clients are dentists, that's amazing, because really a lot of times when people are doing marketing, they don't really take the time to really understand the industry. So that's important, I think, to be able to provide value to your clients. I think for me, can you repeat the question again? Because I was just taken aback by that, how much he knows.
Yeah, well, flattered. And have to shout out to our research expert, my dad, our founder CEO, Greg, for, he's kind of the king of staying. Yeah, woohoo, Greg, serendipitous. But with these changing demographics, was that an important point for you when you thought about, building out your practice? And also when you go to these speaking events? Do you touch on those subjects at all?
Right. It's interesting. 50% of the demographics are women. I don't know that those demographics are the same in terms of private practice and actually practicing. Because I see a lot of women actually working for other employers part-time. So I think when I go to conferences, there'll be a handful of women there, but it's still pretty low in terms of, I feel like, those that are practicing, which I feel like is unfortunate, because it would be great to have like a bigger support group of women who are practicing. But I give massive credit to people who know their priorities and do what's best for them. So that's great. It is important to me, though, to help others. I was part of a panel discussion at Icons of Dentistry, which was a women's event where they had women dentists from across the country and actually in other countries come to the event. And so I think it is important to support other women, and also when you're speaking, whether it's dental or non-dental, to support women in business in general. I think now is the era where minority females are pretty much going to be really in demand, to be honest with you, in terms of speaking and trying to get their perspective on things. Because first of all, I think a lot of women juggle millions of things if they're parents, and they have a certain unique skills that they can be able to apply across the board that I don't know has been fully used and utilized in a way that's going to help businesses. So I think if more businesses recognize that, it will be key, and we need to be able to see that. So I want to be a supporter of that. I also want to see more women in higher positions, and I think part of what I want to do going forward is to be able to support that as well. So my speaking is hopefully going to be able to bring all of that into play, and it's something I think about a lot.
Let's talk about the inspiration and creativity side of things for a little bit.
Okay.
So let's think about people, hobbies, resources, things that are impactful to you. So first thing there, who would you say is the most influential, the most, your biggest inspiration from a person standpoint?
So I would say my parents, if I could pick two people, because they kind of complement each other in a lot of ways. And My parents actually were the ones who, as I was growing up, kind of pushed me academically as well as pushed me to be street savvy. So it wasn't like just kind of follow the entrepreneurial lifestyle, just be, street savvy or just do your academics. I mean, they always wanted us to have a job. They wanted us to understand how real world life is. And they made us do things like learn how to drive a manual car and stick shift when we didn't need to learn.
I still struggled. Well, I don't even have a car anymore, and I still struggle with that.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, they would give us challenges, and whenever we would fall, they would kind of give us advice about how to overcome the challenges. They would never get upset that we had a failure. They want us to learn from it. And so from that point of view, I've never had a problem with risk because of being raised that way. I kind of just jump into things. And then academically, I mean, we were expected to get, a good report card all the time. It was just expected. So pushing that was inspirational to me because they were both working and they didn't have a lot of time to take us to museums or, do all the things that they were doing. But they pretty much spent all their time with us and on their work. And I think that's admirable looking back because it's not easy to manage.
Yeah. So what did they do? What were their jobs?
So my dad was an environmental engineer.
Oh, I was going to guess environmental engineer.
Oh, really?
No, I'm just kidding.
Probably been a good guess because
no, that would have been way too specific.
In our families, we have either engineers, doctors, or lawyers. So.
Really? Okay.
But and then my mother's an accountant. So.
Okay. How about from a hobby standpoint? And now you did mention earlier that you don't spend too much time doing other things besides work and focusing on your kids.
Hobby?
What is that? I want to push here. Yeah. Is there anything? I know you're a big sports fan.
I'm a big sports fan.
Would you consider that a hobby? Is there anything that you do spend your time on other than family and work?
Yeah, I like watching sports, but I'm beginning to think that maybe I shouldn't because I get too involved in watching them.
Yeah. Who's your team? I know you're Broncos.
Yeah, I'm Broncos fan. They're actually going to play the Jets this weekend, so I'm super excited about that game.
All right. Well, my Browns beat the Jets, so if we were able to, you guys better.
They played really well too. I have to say. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
I think, like football is really a big thing for me. Watching football, basketball too.
Yep.
And reading is a big part of my life. So I like to read dental journals and other things for pleasure. I don't know if that would be I don't know if that would be a hobby though, but.
No. Well, it ties into. I mean, that's another thing that's inspirational is resources and books and places you get inspiration. So you mentioned dental journals. Anything else you read?
And I like business books that are actually have substance to them. There's a lot of fluffy ones that I'm just not. I'll pass on those, but the ones that have substance I like. And I would say also I like doing things with others in terms of like events. So I'm more into the experience. So like going rock climbing or going...
Sounds like you just went rock climbing.
Skiing. Yeah, I know, right? Gotta add those special effects.
Yeah.
And so different things that I think that would it be something that I could invite my kids along with me are things that I would like to do, typically outdoors.
Awesome. You mentioned business books. Any that come to mind? Obviously, Crushing It, but...
Right.
Do you have any favorites? Any other favorites that are non-Gary Vee? Because I'm sure Gary Vee is among the top for so many people.
Right. So I actually just read a couple of books by Dave Meltzer. So he owns Sports One Marketing. Those were good. One is Connected to Goodness. I just like the message that comes across with the book. Just about being good and helping others, make money and have fun. His mantra is pretty much what he lives by, but it's just a good feeling book and helps you to kind of reprioritize everything if you're kind of stuck. And I also pretty much would suggest any book that reinforces things that are in our office. So we just are in the process of reading a book by Atul Gawande about the checklists. So, we're really into checklists in our office to make sure that we're careful about how we do things and why checklists are important. And so I think anything that can kind of tie back into work, I kind of enjoy because I feel like it's somewhat being productive, but it's still fun. So that's probably as much of a hobby that you'll get out of me.
How about that dentist journal? Is there a specific dentist journal that you want to name drop, or is it?
So Dental Town is really good because they actually have a forum online.
Okay.
So that I have found is really interesting because people actually, do case planning and they discuss different things online, and they also have a magazine that goes out. So that's pretty good. And I would say, so I am a part of the Academy of Sports Dentistry. They have they send out information regarding traumatology and dealing with dental trauma patients. I like that. And as well, I enjoy the implant journals that I get from the AAID. So there's quite a few out there. I'm more into the more academic side of it. So,
right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And we can just do, if you want, we could do 10 minutes of just listing acronyms of all the different journals and everything.
Right. And just throw everybody off because they're probably like, what is that?
Right, exactly. Okay, so let's move to a segment that is a recurring segment here on the Wild Business Growth Podcast. This is the Wild Business Shout-Out of the Week.
The Wild Business Shout-Out of the Week!
Get your popcorn ready. Yeah. So this is where we talk about a recent marketing campaign that caught our attention and, get our hot takes on it for a little bit.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, so we were chatting earlier, and you mentioned that you've noticed a lot of the things, both in direct mail and just in marketing in general, that a lot of dental practices are doing these days. So it's really, what are dentists doing to market themselves in their practice? Can you speak a little bit about something recent you saw and why it made an impact on you and your thoughts on it?
So I actually recently saw a direct mail piece that came in the mail from a dentist regarding the opening of their new office. And I've noticed more and more that a lot of the direct mail pieces that I'm getting are a little misleading. So that's one thing that I've noticed more of in terms of saying something is free, but then saying only it's for non-insurance patients, or having some caveat to it, which can be troublesome for someone that doesn't really understand that much about how things work in terms of payment. I've also seen some direct mail pieces where people kind of are essentially marketing to other dentists, I feel like. It's a problem in our profession where we typically try to do kind of what the other person is doing. So the dental office down the street is doing something, let me do a piece that's like that. And let me not go outside the box because I don't want to cause any problems to our association of dentists. And so it's kind of developed this idea where people are a little bit too conservative in terms of the type of marketing material that they're doing. We did notice one piece where someone had like a floor plan of their new office. And I don't really see how another patient would benefit from seeing the floor plan. Because first of all, you don't really know that much about the office to know what that picture was about. And then otherwise, they're not going to be able to decipher what, is really going on in that photo. And so this is kind of going back to being really academic, unfortunately, kind of getting too heady about things. As a profession, it would be great to see us kind of go outside the box and reconsider the marketing that we're doing. And if we can start marketing to our actual patients as opposed to each other and kind of support each other. I mean, I've had situations where other dentists have contacted me to tell me how to do marketing because they didn't like what I was doing. I've had dentists show up in my other office and kind of tell me that I was doing things incorrectly. And so I know that there are some pressures that people face because they don't want to ruffle any feathers. But I'm kind of at the point of, recommending that people start ruffling feathers because we're not getting anywhere with the kind of way that we do things.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. And I'm glad that we've covered direct mail in this because obviously you're very much in the digital space.
Right.
But direct mail, we obviously do a lot of, and a lot of our clients do a lot of, and it's a really interesting point because, yes, in recent times, digital and email obviously got way more popular, but it kind of on the other side of that, there's way less clutter in the direct mail space, and it makes way more of an impact when you're going through and you only have a few pieces of mail as opposed to you used to have a ton. So
that's a good point.
It's a great place to make a strong impact.
Right. I think a caveat to what I was just saying is that I think the problem that's happening is, some people are doing some direct mail pieces in marketing and they may not be experienced enough to be doing it. They may not have the right content or the right ideas, and they would be better served by working with someone else to set up the marketing so that maybe it was more relevant to the people that they're trying to target. And I think a direct mail piece done correctly can be really good. Unlike a lot of other people in the marketing space, I do think that there are white spaces that develop, and it's about attention. And there's a lot of people who are not necessarily on social media. And if they're not, you're going to get them with your pieces. You know, if you're doing different things, maybe you're not going to spend 80% of your money on direct mail. Maybe you're going to spend 20%. I mean, it's depending upon your area, what it is that it's needed for that.
Right.
And it's a part of the puzzle. And I think you're doing yourself a disservice to just focus in one thing. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you do have to evolve with the times, and there's always opportunity to do a mix of multiple things, as you said.
And one other thing I want to mention too is that it has to also do with the mailing list.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of dentists who
Shout
are
out.
doing, shout out, because I actually think that that's actually as important as the content. Because people don't understand, if you're in North Bergen, New Jersey, and you do a 2-mile radius, you're going to be sending direct mail pieces to New York City. And so you have to be careful about what kind of company you're working with,
Right.
what kind of addresses you're getting, and, you know, what happens to those pieces. Like, you have to be careful. You want to work with someone who really understands the industry, not just anybody.
Right. Yeah. You want to work with somebody who understands what DSOs are, and we're just going to plug ourselves for the next 5 minutes as an official ADA list licensee. But no, it's so true. And I'm curious from your perspective, from the dentist's perspective, talking about direct mail, what would you say is something that gets your attention when you see a piece of direct mail? Like, is there any sort of messaging or any sort of offer or anything that sticks out to you and you'd recommend manufacturers and people that want to reach dentists would use?
You know, I think would be really good is, you know, trying to do something where you push people to social media. So, you know, maybe a video, some kind of free offer, a video offer if they go onto your site, and try to kind of intermingle all your advertising pieces together. And, you know, a lot of the things that we're doing these days is kind of like a secondary to something else. Like, for instance, if someone finds out about me through Instagram, they may not decide to work with me until they see that direct mail piece. It sometimes takes a few months of direct mail pieces before they actually are interested in trusting you and wants to see you. So I think what I think is important is consistency in terms of the amount of pieces that you receive. I mean, if you just do one drop, I don't think you're going to get anywhere. You have to do consistently.
Yep.
I think the actual direct mail piece should be something that is of interest to the community. So I think if at the time, you know, if it's a wedding, you could target people who are getting ready for, you know, brides who are getting ready for the wedding season. Find out who your audience is and target them and make the content relevant to them. I think if you're trying to be everything to everybody, you're not going to get anywhere and your piece becomes too generic and nobody really is going to be interested. I think making an offer that appeals to your demographic is key. And I think you have to understand that patients and the public in general understand when someone's trying to pull something over on them. They're very smart. And so if you think you're going to do a $0 cleaning and that's it, and you're going to get all this free stuff, like, everybody knows better. So be reasonable and come up with an offer that you think provides value, and that's something that is going to bring a patient in to learn about your services, but it's going to also inform them. And you could just go on a branding platform in terms of setting up the direct mail piece to just inform people about you as opposed to giving an offer, because I think it's more genuine that way. But if you are going to do an offer, just make sure it's, you know, it's something for the demographic.
Yeah, the targeting is so important, and everything kind of keeps going back to attention and consistency there. I know that, you know, I know Gary Vee mentions it all the time, where he's day trading attention.
Right.
And it's, especially in the social media world, you just have to break through that clutter, and sometimes it takes a bunch of times to do that. So that's great.
Right.
So that was the Wild Business Shout Out of the week. We have couple quick more segments here. One of them is actually rapid fire, but we'll save that to the end. Let's do a fun one here called The Unusual. Phrases, quirks, and pet peeves. All right, ready to get unusual?
Sure.
So, great. All right, that's the first question there. No. First question, what would you say is your biggest pet peeve?
My biggest pet peeve is when people have expectations of me on social media to do things like a certain way. Like if they expect me to reply back to them right away, or they expect me to be on their Lively for a certain amount of time, or and then they call me out on it. And I didn't realize there was like a rules to like how much, you're supposed to do, or, how you're supposed to like other people's things. And
yeah, that's
so
true.
I think that's a big pet peeve of mine, because I feel like if you're trying to be connected with someone, trying to tell them how they should connect with you is the wrong way to go about it. Like you have to kind of look at what it is that they're doing and try to accommodate them if you want to get in touch with them. And that's kind of how I do it. So I think that's probably my biggest pet peeve at this moment, because it happens enough.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I'm sure you experience that all the time. I know there's not really there's obviously a bunch of how-to guides and endless blogs about social media out there, but I don't know how much stuff there is about social media etiquette. It's kind of like this, certain people have expectations.
I see a book idea coming.
There we go. All right, we'll do it. Maybe we'll co-author it along with Gary Vee. I'm sure we can work this into his deal. So, okay, how about quirks? Anything that you do or you love doing that other people notice that someone called you out for, and it's just like, oh, like that's a little odd, or I don't do that. Like, for example, I was thinking earlier, for whatever reason, I love using paper towels instead of napkins. Like, if I'm at a restaurant and they have a roll of paper towels, I am super excited. A little too much. Yeah, so shout out to our incoming paper towel sponsorship. But any quirks that you can think of that maybe your kids have called you out for or anything?
I'm kind of I like things really clean. So I don't know if that's really a quirk, but
get my arms off the desk here.
I think that's like a dental thing. Like you always are
that's probably
concerned
a good
about
trait.
Sterilization and but I would say it's kind of a cop out, but I'm really a perfectionist in terms of how I do things. And so, I think that kind of quirk can be troublesome because sometimes 80% is okay. You don't necessarily need everything to be perfect all the time. And so understanding when to apply that and when not to is critical. But I think that quirk comes out in my work in terms of doing dentistry and stuff like that.
Wow, quirk in your work. There's another book idea, Dr. Seuss.
Wow, we're on a roll here.
Yeah. Wow, brainstorming session. All right, so to wrap up this part, how about phrases? So how many different states did you say you lived in?
Oh, wow.
Or is it a lot?
It's a lot.
Okay.
Do you want to even start that conversation?
We could put it in the show notes. We'll do a separate blog post for all the states you've lived in. But phrase it, because I'm always curious, because I'm from Ohio, for example, and we say pop. Everybody else says soda. So that is just rocks people's world. But any place you've lived in that there's a specific phrase like that you notice people use all the time and no one else in the country, you've come across that?
I mean, I'm actually, this doesn't really answer what you're saying, but in terms of places.
That's what I'm going for.
I'm always trying to provide value. But I think it's interesting across the country how different parts of the country is. So when you go to North Carolina and South Carolina, people are unusually nice.
Right. I know. What is that?
I'm thrown off by it because I'm not used to it.
Right.
They're just okay, that's so nice of you to say that. And then they'll say thank you. Or I'm not used to it. I'm here in New York City and I don't see that very often. So I find that is interesting to me because when I leave the East Coast, the way things operate are different. So, but I don't know of very many phrases.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, it's interesting just to think of how people are different. I guess that's kind of something that's people have always said is that people in the South and I'll just say Midwest and Cleveland, just shout out Cleveland, are very nice in general. And you do, it is, I have to say after moving here and experiencing, New York, the heart of New York for a full year now, it's definitely more rushed and people are sort of always trying to kind of on their way and, getting from one place to another. But that's the busyness factor, but I haven't seen it. And even in Connecticut, too, I don't feel like people are more mean. It's just things are at a different pace here. And I think kind of that allows itself for more when things are different. In the Midwest, it allows itself for more conversation, more Southern or Midwest comfort. I just coined that.
Right. No, but I actually think nice is good. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm actually impressed by it when people
Yeah.
are like that. I'm just not used to it, and I find it like that's like really it's interesting to me because I actually was told in dental school that I was too nice and probably wouldn't make it in New York because I was so
Here
nice.
we are.
And
yeah.
like, yeah, so
You got
yeah.
their attention now.
Yeah, right.
So let's wrap up with some rapid fire Q&A.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, you ready for it?
Yes.
Okay. Favorite type of music?
R&B, rap, country.
Is that one or is that three? Who's your favorite?
Musically, I'm like very open to a lot of different. I'm not a big opera fan. That's about it.
Oh, okay. Well, it's okay. Not everybody has to be a big opera fan. Who's your favorite artist? That's either R&B, country, rap. Oh, we got to mention the third rapper. So, do you have a favorite rapper? Snoop. It's got to be a different one.
Snoop, right?
It's got to be a different one. Yeah, got to drop that like it's hot.
Yeah, I don't know of anybody really that I like right now.
Okay.
Do you like anybody?
They're all just
Who do you like?
They're too mainstream for you. So, not to brag, but to brag, Kid Cudi went to my high school for like a year. He was a little bit older than me. So, again, not to brag, but yeah, Kid Cudi went to my high school. But so I, like when I first got into hip hop and he's almost got his own genre. He was sort of always been my favorite. Now, I like Travis Scott a lot.
Yeah.
But going back kind of to like the earlier 2000s, like early Kanye, early Lil Wayne, early Eminem.
Oh, early Kanye is very good.
Those guys are incredible. Yeah, we'll see. I'm interested to see what Kanye's new album is like because every time you see him now, he's dancing in like a different giant costume. So who knows? But yeah, favorite all time probably.
You know what? I
Cudi,
like
but there's so many good ones.
I think that it's So that's the third rap drop.
There we go.
Drop right there.
Kid Cudi.
I would say my favorite is Sade. So completely different, but like that's like timeless. Her music's like very amazing to me, and I can listen to it anytime.
Awesome. Okay. Favorite movie? Do you have a favorite movie of all time?
Okay, so I'm a huge romantic, so The Notebook or Dirty Dancing is probably like my two ultimate.
Perfect. Cool. Well, we're going to reenact the lift here in a minute. Favorite sport? Is football your favorite sport? Or
yes, I would say football is, but my favorite sport to play is tennis.
Oh, okay. Did you go to the US Open?
I didn't.
I
know.
Bummer. I went my first time this year. I could have saw you there. Yeah. Just for a day. Yeah, my brother was in town. My brother's actually great. He was a state tennis player in high school. So we kind of grew up big tennis family. And so finally got there this year. I had toured Wimbledon before, but this is my first major Grand Slam actually seeing. Wow. Which was awesome.
That's impressive.
But it's crazy when tennis in person is something like those professionals in person it's crazy.
Yeah, the speed with which they play.
Yeah. Are you forehand or backhand stronger?
I would say forehand. I was number one singles on my high school team, so.
Awesome.
Shout out to Pomona High School.
Pomona High School. Shout out. All right. How often do you go into the city?
Not as much as I'd like. Only if there's like an event or if I'm meeting somebody, I'll go, but not very often.
Okay. Do you still have a favorite restaurant, a place you like to go in the city? Or even, it could be a restaurant from around here that you want to shout out.
I would say there. I tend to go to like the 20th and Lex area where they have all like the little hole-in-the-wall Indian restaurants.
Oh, yeah. That's not too far from me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much where we go when we go to the city. Do
you have a favorite or do you bounce around?
Kind of bounce around, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then this might be a little bit of a longer one, but last question here. Do you have a funniest patient story that you can think of? Obviously no names, but like, is there any experience? I know you've done a lot of videos and...
Well, we had somebody that was really close to the Notorious B.I.G.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. What rapper number is that? We've lost count here.
Number 4.
That wasn't even on purpose.
So I thought that was interesting because just interacting with that person and trying to help them. And I think when the VIPs come into the office, as much as we like try to cater to everyone, because we honestly consider everyone a VIP. I think when people come in who are either an NFL player or a musician, I think it's interesting to learn about them and what's important to them. And be able to treat them and improve their life, because, you know, kind of like everyone dreams of doing some of these things that these people are doing, and that you can have like a part in that and kind of make their life better, I think is like an interesting, but I don't have any really like specifics on that, except that it's just interesting to be like around them and to learn from them.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah. Are there any notable VIP? I mean, thank you for rolling out the VIP treatment for me. This is fantastic.
But anytime.
I'm sure I'm your number one VIP. After that, are there anybody else, any big names that have come through here recently that you care to mention?
I mean, we just had Ike Diesel, who's a player on the Broncos, come in recently, and he's like the nicest person you'll ever meet. So I always talk about the fact that he's so nice. He's a great North person. Actually, I think he's from Boston area. So
really?
Yeah,
okay.
But he's like just a good human, and considering the fact that he's as talented as he is, it's great to see people like that, so humble.
That's awesome. Yeah. Any pro athlete, it's awesome when you get to meet that. So wow. So you're in the rap world now. You're in the pro football world. So what's next? Anything else? I mean, were you gonna run for office?
We actually just finished off with a commercial that we did for Comcast.
Oh wow!
So it's interesting how like all of this kind of plays into kind of giving like big opportunities to me and in the business and different things that we're trying to do. And so I kind of feel like, you know, the sky's the limit. You should always like reach and aim for whatever it is that you want to do, and try different things, because you never know where things are going to lead you. You know what I mean? Like when I started doing Musically, I never expected that somebody was going to ask me to do a commercial. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you don't know necessarily where things are going to take you. So try to be, careful, and also try to take risks.
Yeah, totally. And you're obviously good at that. Your parents did a good job with that, raising you from the risk standpoint.
Good job, Mom and Dad.
So, shout out, Mom and Dad. Yeah, so that's pretty much a wrap there. Before I forget, I just want to say thank you so much, Dr. Durgam, for hosting here and inviting me to your office, and for Emily for being awesome and documenting all this stuff. But it's still crazy to me that, you know, I read this book, Crushing It, earlier this year, and this year, 2018, it's crazy that you can go from reading a story about someone in a book to reaching out on social media to literally, I reached out to you yesterday. I knew about your story a long time ago, but literally from yesterday to today, within 24 hours, it turned from a simple message to a podcast interview that we're going to release, and I'm sure we'll be #1 Billboard Hot 100 after all these rap mentions. It's so cool, and in meeting you in person, you're just an awesome person. It's really amazing to hear your story, and I'm sure our listeners will enjoy it. Thanks again for hosting and for hopping on the podcast. For anybody else out there that's not already connected with you and missing out on all your great content that you're consistently posting out, where's the best place for people to connect with you on social media, and also to connect and swing by your office? Maybe.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's definitely different ways to find me: Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Durgam, Durgam. And just DMing me on Instagram is a good way. I'm also here at Aesthetic Dental in North Bergen in New Jersey. And if you ever want to come and say hi, you can come find us on our website, adentalonline.com. But we really try to reply to everybody. We try to be engaging with the community, because it's a great community that is here on social media. And if I can help anyone in any way, I'm happy to do so.
Awesome. Okay, last thing for you. I got a surprise question.
Uh-oh.
It's more of a prompt. Stage is yours. Any final quote or final thoughts that you want to end on here?
I mean, I would say I'm just going back to what I was thinking about earlier, is I think that in terms of everything that's happened to me up to this point, it's interesting to see that I've just done what I'm passionate about. I haven't necessarily tried to be something that I'm not. And the more authentic that I've become over my lifetime, the better I think that I have been at, being more successful, being able to do the things that I want to do and help other people. And I think the secret to everything is to continue to do things that are something that make you happy. And the more that we do that, I think the more options we have available to us. And like I said, things happen that you don't expect. And I don't think that we should overly plan and overly prepare for what we're doing. We should just dive in and do as much as we can because time is limited and you never know what's going to happen. And so, be open to serendipity.
I can't believe you tied it back to serendipity. That is incredible.
I had to.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Dr. Chithra Durgam, and she is your fifth rapper of the day.
Okay, all right. That was Dr. Durgam. I hope you learned some new rappers. I hope you learned what serendipity means, because I still have no idea, but it sure sounds cool. Huge thanks to Dr. Durgam, and also big thanks to Emily and the rest of the team at Aesthetic Dental there in North Bergen. Thank you to all you listeners for tuning in to the Wild Business Growth Podcast presented by Hippo Direct. We love you, and we appreciate any feedback you have, anything we could do to make the show better, any guests you'd like to see on the show, any ideas for new segments, you name it. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review 5 stars on iTunes and Apple Podcasts, and all your other favorite platforms out there. As you know, we are out everywhere. Hit us up on social media at Hippo Direct. We're on every major platform. For me personally, it's also Max Brandstetter, Branstetter. At Hippo Direct, we've got tons of great marketing and business content for you and entertaining gifts and videos about your favorite hippo, the most interesting hippo in the world. There's also plenty of creative marketing highlights and a weekly recap just for you. You can sign up at hippodirect.com/newsletter. That's the Hippo Digest. We'll catch you next time on the Wild Business Growth Podcast. Let your business run wild. Bring on the bongos!